Now, thousands of Central American migrants are in Tijuana, hoping for asylum into the United States.
The first step in that process involves crossing the border, and that's not something President Trump wants to let happen. Fox 5 legal analyst Wendy joining us now to break it all down, and there's a lot to break down. Wendy,
yes,
good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so let's get right to it. Now, the president threatening to close the border, and he said it yesterday, permanently if things get out of hand. Can a president close the border to the country permanently?
No, unless the laws are changed, and that's one of the things the president wants to do. Remember that legally, whether he likes it or not, there are laws that permit people who are fleeing legitimate claims of violence and persecution in their home countries to come here and seek asylum. There's a procedure to do that. Remember, a judge just blocked the president's, basically his attempt to prevent that from happening unless they come through a point of entry. So you can see the challenges that lie ahead of him in attempting to change the laws via executive order. Now, I understand President Obama did the same thing. That's how we ended up with DACA. So it's not unprecedented for him to be trying what he is trying to do. But as we also saw on Sunday, as a practical matter, a border closing is enormously disruptive to a border town like us here in San Diego.
Well, you talk about enormously disruptive. I mean, we have a lot of people who come here to go to work,
yes,
to go
we do.
to school.
Yeah.
We've been taught, and this has had a tremendous impact on them.
It has, and you know, the caravan's really been both a blessing and a curse. I understand people join it because there's this idea of safety in numbers. But when you look at the way the border was rushed on Sunday and what that led to, nobody wanted to see that type of action, and that kind of closure, as you say, Shawley, affects so many legitimate, honest, lawful crossings of both goods, services, and people every single day. We all know people who enjoy living in Tijuana. It's a beautiful border city. People like living there. They like the cost of living, and vice versa. I know a lot of people that live here that love to go down there to shop, which they couldn't even do on Black Friday. So there's an enormous practical impact if the laws are not enforced, and that's really what the administration's trying to do.
Yeah, for San Diego, going back and forth is a way of life. Let's talk about the caravan, because the question now is, are they eligible for asylum? Do they have legitimate concerns of safety? And that's when you have 5,000 people all at once. That's tough to do. But do they have to go through the process? Will they even? Some are going back. Some are saying forget this because they were promised this rubber stamp. You can get in.
I heard yesterday there was 20. They offered them to go back. We'll get a bus.
Yeah.
And out of 5,000, 20 got on the bus.
I can't believe it's only 20. I also know that there were more that also wanted to explore options of seeking asylum in Mexico, particularly in places like Rosarita and other cities that have a lot of tourism that were offering the migrants jobs. Now, if it is going to be impossible to storm the border by force and basically bust your way into a nation of laws through lawlessness, which is the whole problem here, maybe there are other options. And the people that rush the border, you know, that really disenfranchises those that are legitimate asylum seekers. Some of the mothers and children and the others that were impacted by the tear gas. People that actually might have valid asylum claims that would be granted asylum. They're ruining chances for those kinds of people. And so that's another problem with the caravan.
Why this particular border? Is there any significance?
Well, it's the largest border crossing, and when you look at the way this caravan was organized, there seems to have been some idea that, well, if you have a large crossing and you have, you know, as many people as we can, maybe we can, by sheer force, bust through that border. And I mean physically, because we all saw the footage from Sunday that maybe that would work. It didn't, but in the process, there was collateral damage. There were people that were impacted by tear gas. Nobody wants to use tear gas. The issue now, of course, is was that a reasonable use of force? Of course, the authorities say yes. Obviously, when you look at that footage, our hearts break for those that were impacted by the fact that that had to be used. Again, it was a last resort, but it was appropriate according to the authorities here.
You mentioned those who organized the caravan. What did those people tell the folks in the caravan, and what was promised to them? Because clearly it was not the correct information.
Oh, Raul, that's such a great question, because we wish we knew more information about exactly that. What would motivate so many people to join this force if they didn't really believe they were going to be able to cross legally, illegal, whatever it was. You know, this isn't like going to an airport and lining up at Southwest Airlines where you have A group, B group, C group. You don't have any order. And that's what's heartbreaking here. It's chaos. They want asylum, not anarchy. And you wonder whether some that joined that group were offered false promises of their chances.
That's what it sounds like.
Right, of not only of crossing the border, but then of actually having those claims processed expeditiously. We certainly know that's not taking place because there's too many people coming at once.
So what happens now?
Well, I would imagine what happens now is the U.S. will continue to process as many as they can. Both the U.S. and Mexico will continue to house as many people that have been displaced because they're coming up from other countries. And they're also going to be processing those that will decide, hopefully, Shelley, that number will rise from 20, to take advantage of Mexico's offer to give them asylum and jobs in Tijuana and Rosarito and other places that are able to do it.
I wonder if once word gets out and the few people start getting those interviews done, a lot of them are going to take up that offer to head back when they realize, oh, what I was told is inaccurate, so I'm just going to head back.
I think that's right, Raul. And for many of those women and children and young men that are traveling legitimately with legitimate claims, they may realize that what they've been promised isn't possible. And you're right, they may explore other options that will be good for themselves and their families. It's heartbreaking. Nobody wants to see any of this taking place. We always want to help. We just celebrated Thanksgiving, but we've got to do it in a process that's lawful.
Got to do it the right way. Wendy, Patrick, we appreciate your time as always.
Always
Thank
a pleasure.
you.
Thanks, guys.
7:22.